Welcome to the Party Pals. So today is our job readiness and group resume review meeting. So last Thursday of every single month, we also just finished out our monthly giveaway draw. So I don't know if you guys are going to be on the live stream portion, but both Wiz _00 and Enkel are both the winners for the Cyber 1 month subscription. So I will go ahead and message you guys after the meeting to get your guys' information and send those over. But yeah, congratulations. And then go ahead and let us know what you guys would like to see in some of the giveaways coming up. And I'm going to go through our little intro here. I'll go ahead and pull everything up on screen. We have 3 different resumes lined out so far. Let me go ahead and grab this other link here. And welcome to the Party Pal, everybody. I see 8-Bit, B-Dubs, Phil Stafford. We got JT Webb. We got Scott Brunch. I'm probably pronouncing that wrong. The Pain, Rhonda, Jeffrey, Flakinator, C. Allen, Ben Tech. Welcome to the Party Pal, GRC Mafia. All right, now I'm going to drop this link in chat real quick because you can go through and submit your resume through that form. So if you go ahead and select that very first drop down on that page, then you could go ahead and select resume review, and then it'll allow you to upload a file. It does send that file through VirusTotal, but then as long as it's redacted, we can actually go over that today as well. Otherwise, we just have the 3 lined out. Now, and welcome to the Party Pal, Regine. I see you popping in as well. So off the bat, we always like to talk about why are we even here. We're here to break down barriers, foster collaboration and community, and we're all here to learn and grow together. So it's already way too difficult to learn a lot of these different topics. The industry is so broad, whether on the technology side or on the GRC side, nobody can learn it all. And that's what we're really here to do, is to just learn from each other, share what we have and so forth, and just learn and grow together in an actual like educational format. You know. All right. Now, our typical schedule. So Monday, Tuesday is our hands-on. Wednesday is our GRC Let's Get Technical. And then this is, so Thursday, 6 p.m. Central is our primary meeting every single week. And Friday is our 1-hour AMA. So tomorrow at 11 a.m. Central time, then we will be meeting for 1 hour for our AMA. Now, one interesting thing is on Thursdays, we go through and we have the first 2 weeks of every single month, we have speakers. And that's one of the things that I did want to mention right quick is we do have these coming up. I'll pull this up here in a moment, but we do have a couple really good talks scheduled for the next 2 weeks on Thursday. So one is about navigating GRC technologies, and then the other one is product security and overlap communication with GRC itself. So I'll go ahead and pull those up here momentarily. I am going to be dropping the stage link, so we do an open stage for everybody, so you're more than welcome to come up. I'm actually going to go ahead and drop that now, so if you'd like to come up, you can ask questions directly up on screen. You can go through and just join the conversation directly. You do not have to turn on your video if you would not like to. We do highly encourage you to ask questions and to share useful resources, even if it doesn't pertain to what we're talking about at that time. You're more than welcome to drop that information, and worst case scenario, we'll circle back around to the questions. We do try to keep up with the chat as much as possible. If we do overlook something, go ahead and feel free to drop that again. One of the best places to actually drop your personal LinkedIn or social media is inside of our Discord server. So you can actually drop that link into our live chat channel, and it'll relay that across all of the platforms for other people to follow and connect with you. That's also where you can actually ping me. So you can do @CWhitlock on Discord, and then it'll actually highlight the message for me, which makes it a little bit easier in case I, overlook something. Let me see here. Just a moment there. All right, and I already dropped that stage link. If you do happen to share something that you don't want to be public, just reach out to me on Discord, LinkedIn. You can also contact me at contact@studygrc.org. And then also you can check out our website, so studygrc.org. for the rest of the platforms that we stream to. We also have our calendar, which is going to provide the most up-to-date information on what's coming up, and also our resources page as well. Another honorable mention is B-Dubs' website, so Britwatt.io. She's going through and dropping a really awesome article related to like hacking mindset, GRC every single Monday. Some really, really good articles already out. She's even going through and actually doing a read-along video for every single one that drops every Monday as well now. Another mention with that is going to be her most recent update here. So she will be leading and doing the CISSP study group, which we are collaborating with her on because we do have channels inside of our Discord server for that. And so the best place to learn more about that, let me go ahead and transition so I could share some of this other info on screen. So the best place to see more information about that is going to be this website, which I'm dropping in chat. So cissp.britwhite.io. What's really awesome about this aspect is so it's going to be on Tuesdays at 6 p.m. Central, Saturday at 3 p.m. Central. And then there's a YouTube playlist that all of the sessions are going to be going into. You can go ahead and join the Study GRC Discord server. And then there's a video down here that will actually walk you through on how you can get the CISSP role inside of our server. So that way you can get notified for different updates, for when those sessions go live and so forth as well. There's also a calendar here. So you can go ahead and click on calendar, and you can even see the different events coming up here. So you could see some of these different events that are up on this calendar. So definitely something worth checking out if you guys want to provide some feedback too. So there was a video that was just dropped today. I can go ahead and drop that in a moment. Let me see. But also, as these sessions go through, the biggest thing is community built, community driven. So this CISSP study group is 100% free. It's for community. And so getting feedback and suggestions for improvement, especially as we move through the different sessions, is extremely vital. We want to make sure that it's valuable to the entire community as a whole. So definitely getting that feedback is important as well. And I just dropped a link to that video that was dropped today for the overview. It's like the precursor to before we start the first session next Tuesday. Let me see here. And yes, 8-Bit Oni, I did get your resume. That will be one of the 3 resumes we will be reviewing. And I only mentioned that because you threw it in chat there. All right. And then the other 2 things that I wanted to mention real quick is, so if you take a look at this, so next Thursday, we will be having Alana on for navigating GRC technology implementations. This is going to be an incredible talk. I am so excited for both of the talks that we have lined up this next month, and this will be next Thursday. So definitely check that out. One of the best ways to stay up to date with it is to just, if you guys want to see more of this type of content, is to go ahead and subscribe. And then you can also turn on all notifications as well to get pinged when we go live and post videos. You can also come over here to this video and also hit notify me as well. We also post these types of updates inside of our Discord server too. There is a role in there to get notified when we go live. And then the next Thursday, so then on the 13th, we have Chad coming up. So Chad Butler, about policies, pipelines, and ProdSec. So this is something that is very vital, especially when we're talking like supply chain and today's world for manufacturing and so forth. But this is something we have not, I don't actually recall us talking about product security at all during any of our sessions for over a year now. And so he is an expert on the field, and he's going to give us a rundown on all of it and how GRC can work together with product security for overall better outcome. So that's going to be a really, really great one. I feel both of these are going to be extremely engaging, and yeah, I'm very excited for them. Now with that part said, I'm going to go ahead and pull this down, and then I got to get these resumes pulled up. How's everybody else doing? So I'm going to pull up our first resume here in a moment. We got JT coming in here. I'll pull you up on screen here. I'll drop this stage link one more time, and I'm going to get these resumes pulled up. And Phil Stafford, I think you're talking about the CISSP video that dropped today. Yes. So that video did drop this morning. I believe it was this morning. And yeah, definitely take a look at that. If you guys have any questions regarding the CISSP study group, definitely the best place is going to be our Discord server. And then you can also at myself or B-Dubs. B-Dubs is leading and powering that entire thing. How's it going, JT?
Going good. How about you?
Awesome. All right, let's see here.
You can call me whatever you want besides a liar and a thief.
Oh, come on. Talk about limiting. All right. Yeah, and we'll get this going here in just a moment. So these redaction ones are importing now. And also, as we go through this, so the whole point of this is to go through and have group resume review. If you guys do not want to come up on stage, you're more than welcome to drop your advice and feedback into the chat as well. Or if you guys have any other questions along the way, like I said, even if it doesn't pertain to what we're talking about, that's okay too. But yeah, we're just trying to provide feedback and provide this to everybody. And then I think somebody had already tried it, but one other thing that I forgot to mention there is go ahead and grab your guys' badges inside of the Discord server as well. So I just dropped information for that as well. So if you go to our Discord server, you can go over to our live chat channel, and then you could just do GRC Mafia and grab your weekly badge. And then you'll receive a check mark if it is successful. Welcome, 8-Bit.
Hey. You having a good night so far?
Yeah.
Awesome.
Let's go. All right. Now you guys should be able to see this port here. So this is going to be the first one that we go through. This is a one page, which I think is awesome. Let me go ahead and move us around a little bit here so we can all see it. And then I could zoom in here too. So the very first part, so the redaction parts here would be the name at the very top, and then they had their email address and phone number on the right hand side, and then they also had, I believe that was like city, state, and zip underneath the Dallas-Fort Worth Metroplex section. So professional profile, current student at so-and-so, working towards a master's science in information systems. All right. Graduated from the University of with a bachelor's in business computer information systems. Hardworking individual who has a passion for computers, technology, information security, and governance. Did anybody have anything to include on that summary section? So my key thing is I think that that's pretty bland to an extent. I think you should probably go more descriptive. You could really condense that down and say, you know, recent graduate with the bachelor's in information systems, pursuing the master's in information systems in one sentence, and then you could quickly move that over to, you know, like some of the different projects you've done or skills that you have that applies. Other than the OCEG certs, this isn't really popping out as a GRC resume.
So on the top part, I would say that all needs to be condensed into one, and just have your professional summary and get rid of the core competencies and technical skills areas. I don't think that those are benefiting this resume.
Yeah, that also does look a little bit messy with the technical skills and core.
Yeah, I would really clean it up to just have a summary there at the top.
All right, let's see. Just trying to catch everything here. All right. Making sure I'm not messing anything in chat. And we also have Flakernator popping up as well. Welcome to the party, pal.
Thanks, all. I figured I'd stop by.
Bam. Did you have anything on this section right here?
I just kind of popped in because I was on the phone for something. But, I mean, we're talking just the very top?
Yep. Yeah, so this first part.
I mean, the professional profile, I do agree, seems a little bland. I think, though, in defense of it, though, we are talking about someone who's been primarily a student, so I kind of feel like it's hard. Yes, they have security intern stuff, but it's possible being bland is kind of how it's going to be when you're first starting out.
Yeah. Yeah, and this, I would not be surprised if this is like one of the first drafts or otherwise. I do recall this individual in particular does have multiple different tailored resumes as well. So,
I mean, one comment I would have on the top area though was all those certifications.
These here?
That's a lot of that's an awful lot of certifications considering, right? I mean, if the main experience is information security intern, I don't know the rest. But that's an awful lot of certs to drop on a resume to then also not have a lot of work experience along with it. Me personally, if I looked at that resume and I was trying to hire someone, I would be like, why are there all these certs listed when they have just a small amount of, experience? Like, at least from what I see, the couple months of experience, but they have all these certs.
Correct.
And there's nothing wrong with having all those certs, but sometimes you can list too many. It also depends on the role that they're going for too, really. I mean, that's kind of part of it.
Yeah, and that's probably one of my big... Oh, go ahead.
Yeah, you could also list the certifications that are only applicable to the role you're applying to. And I know WGU especially is a huge culprit of having tons of certs with as a student, but you can definitely tailor that.
Yeah, the part that I was going to mention is one of the key things that pops out to me is that September of 23 is as far back that it goes. So it only goes back a couple years, not even. So I don't know how old they are or otherwise, but the fact that they have like substitute teacher and then they do have a very short internship from June to August, they would be very entry level, but they do have all of those certs. So,
well, I also would say that the experience is wrong, right? Because look at the date range. You're supposed to put newest on top, oldest underneath, and the information security intern was June to August, but then in September to present, they're still a substitute teacher. So they really should have it flipped. I know if you're going for a security job, that might not be the way you want to do it, but that's how it's supposed to be formatted. And I hate to tell you, there's a lot of people out there that will just look at it and go, it's not formatted properly. Or even the systems will go through it and go, not formatted properly, bang, you're out. I mean, I've known people that have looked at the resume and said, hey, look, here's a spelling error, or this one little thing is wrong, boom, they're out. And they don't even want you because it goes to the whole not being detail-oriented or following the details. So that's something to also be concerned about. I'm not saying anything. I'm not saying it's a bad resume. I'm just saying there are people that won't like it because it doesn't follow the standard format.
Yeah. And that's a really good shout out too. And then also like Rhonda states that I would say apply some lessons learned from the certs that align with the role to jazz it up, to jazz up the professional statement at the top, the summary at the top. So yeah, and I think that whole top part could be condensed down, worded a lot better. And then the last thing I was going to mention here is that also like substitute teacher, for an example, I think could be tailored way more, especially highlighting those security awareness and things like that.
Well, I would actually toss into there up in the top in the professional profile, the substitute teacher part, because it shows knowing how to like oversee and manage and, lesson plan, which has to do with organization and some process. I mean, you can totally spin that to potentially jazz up that part at the top. The other thing I would say, at least I know that worked for me, though I have way more experience, is I actually, if they have personal projects they worked on, I flipped it and I put my experience after all my personal projects. And the moment I did that, I actually started getting callbacks on my resume.
Bam. And then also, my concern is which is the right look to a resume. Nothing against this. I like the look, just in general asking what is a good look. I wish there was a straightforward answer.
Yeah.
I think it really depends on what company you're applying to. Government resumes are also a lot different. But then also, what is your experience level? What type of experience is the role itself that they're looking for? I think a key thing is you have to realize that what the average time is like 11 seconds before they make a decision on average. Like, it's not very long before the recruiter, if a real person even looks at it, it's not very long before they are like, yes or no. Like, am I going to dig into this more, or am I throwing this in the trash pile? Yeah. Which is why that very first part is so vital.
I mean, I would also chime in and say it depends, right? I mean, there are definitely things you don't want to do, like don't put your picture on the thing. Like, that's just ridiculous. Like, that's not done anymore. So there are definitely like a no kind of don't do it thing. As for, is this formatted right compared to others? It's formatted differently than mine is, but does that mean mine's right and this one's wrong? No, it doesn't. To me,
Correct.
something that makes sense is like this: have friends or colleagues or others look at it and go, do you think this looks like crap? If any of them are going, yes, it does, and I'm not saying that at all, I think this looks pretty good. If any of them are saying that, obviously it's not formatted right. Like,
Yeah.
I would also probably jump on YouTube and look up a few things, because there's definitely stuff about resumes that'll show you formatting, and just Google search formats too. That'll help you. I mean,
and so to recap this section here, so we're talking about redoing the professional summary, especially pulling in, especially if you're going for that GRC audit role, try to actually word that into this professional summary portion. This could be cleaned up for the skills and core. And then also that note on the order is a good shout out as well. And I don't see any of the metrics as either. So you don't even state how many, what were you doing? So you were coordinating with the FDIC and SOC audits, gathering evidence related to information security. Okay, but was there any outcome to that, or did you ever find anything? Did you improve it, or trying to? There's also planned and executed the monthly company-wide phishing campaign to simulate real-world cyber attacks. Are you able to say, was that sent out to 5,000 people, 10,000, 20,000 people? Did you have any type of metrics that you could share about that? Did you notice a decrease in phishing, successful phishing at your organization? So that STAR method is what we've talked about in the past as well. So, and then the leadership in campus, community involvement, I would probably start putting those on one line just to condense this down a little bit.
Well, so how long is this resume? Is it just this one page?
It's just the one page.
Okay. So from what I've always been told, one page is great for someone who looks like they're early in their career. 2, possibly 3. 3's pushing it unless you really have been doing it for a long time. I've been doing IT for 20 years. Mine's only 2 pages long. Because most of the time they say about 10 years worth of experience. Anything beyond that, you probably don't need unless, they request it, or if you're going into an interview and they want you to give them your resume, though I haven't experienced that in a long time, then you can bring a longer one. I know, was it Jason Blanchard, who does the amazing job hunter stuff, will say his resume is, I think, 2 pages, the one that he'll give out, but he has a full-blown resume that's 8 or 9 pages with every single piece of experience. But he only gives that if someone asks for it.
Yeah, and then I'm going to have to play with this. I might have to present this differently. It looks like you guys could probably see this part,
Yeah.
but that's harder to read.
Yes.
How does that
Um,
look?
Is there more
that
to
work?
this? Is there more to this than just this one page?
This is just one. This is one of 2 pages.
Okay. Okay.
Can everybody see this wall, or should I just pull it up separately? What are your guys' thoughts?
I mean, I have comments on it already, but
I think this gives a
Yeah, I
really
yeah, I
see
can
it.
see it.
All right.
Yeah, if I go full screen, I can see it even better. So
Bam. Well, and I could also do it this way too. So we'll just hide everybody. So we're still all in the background here, but so we can see this at a higher level. Anything immediate? Anything anybody wants to throw on there first?
I definitely do. So under experience, too much. Company 1 security network engineer, that part's fine, but there's too many bullets under each job. Way too many. Well, maybe not way too many. From what I know, it should be 4, maybe 5. But they also all feel pretty long, especially a couple of them, at least on the first job. Again, there are no metrics, and I don't personally agree with adding metrics because no one's going to prove your metrics, right? Like this guy could say or woman, won't judge it. Redesign, maintain, and audit HQ network access controls and firewall configuration and security efficiency. Like an improved efficiency by 70%. Well, no one's going to check it, and no one can check it. Like you can't. So I always find metrics to be a load of crap, but people want to see them for some reason. So I would at least, if there's a couple things here that this person can add metrics to that aren't off the chart crazy or completely inaccurate, I would, because people seem to want it.
Mm-hmm. Well, and yeah, around the metrics part, I think that's also important to note because we do talk about like the STAR method often on actually showcasing, those metrics and so forth. However, something else that we've mentioned too is that you have to be able to back that up somehow. And especially because if you do put something on your resume, you should be ready to respond to a question related to it. Yeah. So if I say, I did a phishing campaign and we had a 20% reduction in our phishing campaigns, and then I go into an interview, I would be expecting some type of question like, well, how did you get those numbers? Like, was that like organizationally wide? How did you track that? Like, what was your evidence to back that?
Yeah.
So at least being able to respond to some extent. But I still think that it's a good idea to do that if you can, because it showcases that you're able to look at it from that perspective as well. Like, what was the result? So, you did a phishing campaign, but why? What was the outcome? Like, was it just a waste of time? Like, yeah. And that's like coinciding with a lot of different factors too. And so that helps showcase the actual outcome of it.
I will say,
I'm not saying you're wrong.
Yeah. No. I will say another thing that jumps out at me is underneath technology somewhere where he says platforms. Mm-hmm. I think just putting Linux is good enough. I mean, for the most part, Linux is Linux. Yes, Kali Linux is its own animal just because of everything that's in there. But,
yeah.
In the end, heart and soul, Linux is still for the most part Linux, and they basically mostly will run the same. Like if you know how to use Ubuntu, you'll be able to use Raspberry and you'll be able to use Mint with some minor differences.
Now, and yeah, go ahead.
And it also makes the line longer. So again, like you said, if people see a lot of text, like I guess like a wall of text, so to speak,
yeah,
people are going to be like, too much, gone, moving on. And it's a shame that we do that because this person has a lot of experience,
Yeah, and I think it
but most people are going to look at it and
though.
just be like, moving on, there's too much here. I need to know within a couple seconds, bang, gone, done.
Well, and there isn't I'm looking at the objective itself, IT background expertise in diagnosing, troubleshooting, resolving technical issues, seeking a challenging role in leveraging my skills in hardware, networking, and security. So they're looking more for that infrastructure and cybersecurity type of role. Yeah, kind of along the same lines of what you were saying. I think the bulletin points are too extensive. I think that could be condensed down to be more straightforward, just because that does take up a lot of room as well. I think that most recent role, I would be looking at like the 5 bulletin points of the main sections.
Yep.
And then the rest of them, I would be looking at like 3 bulletin points for other roles, just highlighting the key areas.
What's the next page look like? The second page.
I'll pull that. Yeah, I'll pull that up
Out of
in
curiosity.
just a second. What the other part that I was going to mention is I do agree with, like Rhonda was saying technology summary. I love that part, but I have 2 additional pet peeves. So using the dash for the lists, I don't know. I've just always hated that. I think that's a personal pet peeve of mine.
I agree with
I
that.
prefer actual rounded bulletin points.
I do too, but I think so under experience. So to me, where it says company 1, it should probably be company 1. And then say maybe to the right of company 1, security network engineer, with then the date on the far right. Because it also
or even
saves
on the same line as the company name.
Well, that's what I mean. Yeah, same line, because you also want to save space, because the longer the resume, sometimes people look at it like, well, there's also a long resume, I'm not going to whatever.
Yeah.
And if the person does that and takes company name, company 1, and then puts security network engineer on the same line, it gets rid of that bullet that's there, and then they can bullet everything, and it won't look strange having, like, say, technology summary with bullets, and then also experience under each company with bullets.
Yeah. And then I'm going to pull this up here real quick too. Yo, go ahead.
I also want to add that, well, it went away, but the technology summary, I think it could completely go away, because a lot of that is duplicated in the experience underneath it. And if it's not, you can easily add those technologies there, and then it's easy to see where you earn that experience and how it applies.
What I was going to say is I would like to see that in the core qualifications, or I think technology summary is great, but I would put it in 3 different columns or something, so it's quick and easy to read through and see those keywords. Like, that's why I pulled this up on screen, because Ranya's resume that we reviewed before had it like this.
Yeah, that, like, the core qualifications kind of stuff going across.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, in 3 columns. It just breaks it up and makes it way easier to read as a human.
And I think some of my stuff was done that way too, because yes, it makes it easier to read. 2, it also takes up potentially less space. So, like, I'm not into, I don't do Cisco switches. I don't do any of this stuff. So I might be wrong, but is it that important to put Cisco routers then with the models? Yes or no? I don't know. I'm asking.
Probably not.
Okay. Well, and that's why I'm asking people. I don't know, but some of the stuff doesn't need to then potentially be broken out. Like, he has HP, Dell, Lenovo servers. That's almost all the different servers, like, for the most part.
Unless you're applying for government roles that still have that, equipment from the 90s or something.
Correct.
Then they may need somebody who knows it.
Yeah.
But no, I think that's a really good point to make as well, is that they don't have to be as descriptive with that portion of it.
Yeah.
So that I do have to also give kudos to whoever's resume this is, because like Jupyter, Cisco, you also have like the Dell, HP, Lenovo servers. I think especially in the infrastructure section, outlining the different brands is important.
Oh yeah, agreed.
Regarding the servers, because there is a difference between those 2. I've looked at like Jupyter switches before. Like, those seem actually pretty insane. I'd love to play with those.
See, the fun part to me is he talks about hardware printers. That would make me ask him, have you ever ripped the printer down to its bare bones and put it back together? Because I used
nobody got time for that.
I used to do printers. Dude, that was one of the tests. Like, I walked into a new job and they said, "We hear you're a printer person." I'm like, "Yeah. Why? What's up?" They go, "Rip this 8150 down to the bare bones, please, and put it back together." I'm like, "Sure, no problem." So I did it.
Nowadays, that printer stops working back there, and I just throw it away and buy a new one.
I know.
Like, but also in business, it is a little bit different, because like those copiers, they're like what, 20, 30, 40 grand a pop now.
Oh yeah. And they're made like crap.
Right.
So,
does anybody else have any other key areas to throw on this first page, and then I'll move to the second?
I do agree though that the text summary could be shorter, because a lot of the stuff is mentioned down below under experience, or you could leave it in the text summary and remove maybe some of it from the experience instead.
Yeah, and Rhonda mentions impact statements. For example, redesigned and audited HQ network ALCs and firewall configurations. Yeah, especially when you're looking at the bulletin points. And that's what I would be looking at, is condensing that down to an extent. But yeah, doing impact statements. That's a good shout out, a good mention.
Yeah. Whoever this is has great experience, though.
At least on paper.
Well, yeah. I would definitely get rid of the CompTIA Security Plus, CSA Plus, and CSAP images.
Yeah, it doesn't need
and
any
I
images.
Get rid of them. Get rid of them.
I don't know if this also has to do with export or otherwise to PDF, but I absolutely hate it when things are cut to a second page. I think that would also be fixed when you condense down the bulletin point number.
I agree. I agree as well. Yeah.
Yeah, I think that just doesn't show that it's well polished. I guess would be a good way to put it.
Well, and it also means that the company 2 one has an extra 4 bullet points from the first page. Like, that's a lot of bullets.
Yeah, and like regarding the certifications, even though this individual has a lot of experience itself, I would probably list those certifications you could put on a single line underneath objectives, for an example. So that way, like, the recruiter quickly knows, oh, this person has, SecX or Sec Plus, CASP, or SciSA, and the CSAP. Is the CSAP a stackable cert, or?
Hold on. So
Yes,
I think that's a stackable.
It is a stackable.
Yeah.
If it's me under education certifications, I'd probably get rid of that first, the occupational center city state student thing, right? Because all that stuff that's mentioned there, they've already done real world in their job too. So I don't think it's needed on the resume anymore. I mean, they could have it if they want, but they have actual real world experience at this point. And
The
they
only
don't.
thing that would be necessary there is like a bachelor's or master's.
Correct.
And your certifications.
Yeah.
I would typically agree, although it depends on the type of training, because it says hands-on training program. And so I think it may just not be worded properly, because it does say occupational center. So the one case that I would disagree with you guys with that on is if that was like specialized training, like for particular manufacturing or ICS systems, or, a particular type of environment that they, like an industry that they took, specialized training for those environments. That would be the only case that I would agree with having it in there, but that would need to be more clearly stated on here.
But if it's not that, they can definitely go, because they mentioned the Cisco routers all over again and the stuff that they would have been doing in their job already. So there's no need.
Straight facts.
The CompTIA Sec Plus CISA, they might want.
What is the feeling on having the stackable cert? I think most people don't even know about the stackable certs.
Yeah, I wouldn't even worry about it.
That's kind of my thought, is I wouldn't even list it, to be honest. I think it might look good, but honestly, like, more than likely, they're going to just have to look that up, if they even look it up at all.
What's the stackable cert mean?
So that just means that the Sec Plus and the SciSA equals the CSAP. And so that's cybersecurity analytics professional, I think.
Oh, yeah, I would get rid of the Sec Plus and the CSA Plus if the CSAP is basically the equivalent of both of them. There's no point to list all 3 of them, right? Because you have to have the other 2 to get that third one.
I would keep the Security Plus and the CISA Plus, and then get rid of the CSAP, because nobody knows what that stackable is. And when on the job descriptions, they're asking for that Security Plus or that CISA Plus. They're not asking you for
Fair
CSAP.
Point. Yeah.
Exactly. Yeah, I completely agree. Another mention is they also list out the 601. I wouldn't even list what exam you took. Nobody cares.
I wouldn't.
It doesn't matter.
I wouldn't. Yeah.
And like I had mentioned, is I would actually take these certs and I would actually put this on a single line, like right underneath your objective on the first page, just on one line, and be like certifications, Sec Plus, SciSA.
Yeah, I agree, because there are many people that might have all this experience, but they don't have any certs, and There's nothing wrong with there's nothing wrong with not having certs, but most of the jobs now, they want you to still have a cert, even if you have a ton of experience behind you anyway.
Yeah, and also, like, even if you just have those 2 certifications, they can quickly see at the very top here that you have those certifications, but you also have a bunch of experience too.
Yeah.
So I don't feel that would be a handicap whatsoever.
Yeah.
Was there any other final last words for this one in particular? I'm going to drop the stage link as well, and then we'll move on to the third one. So the third one is the last one that we have lined out, and then we could just start talking about job readiness. Another thing we could do that I've talked about before is we could do like some interview practice questions to an extent, or dig into that a little bit too.
The last thing I will say, Chris, if this person changes nothing but one thing on this resume, get rid of the images of the CompTIA stuff. I don't even know why CompTIA wastes their time letting people have those, because no one wants to see them on resumes. No one.
Done.
I just like how pretty they are. I like my my Credly.
There you go.
I mean, they're great for your LinkedIn banner, but not your resume.
Yeah.
They're pretty.
Heck, I don't even have any of that stuff on my LinkedIn. I don't, whatever.
I just like the Credly. I'm not even gonna lie. I like the badges more than like even the certifications. If like I've actually taken a an Excel course just because they had a Credly badge attached to it. Like, come on, like how could you not? Like,
You got to catch them all, right?
yeah, I mean,
no,
I
you.
like the badges more than the certification piece of paper.
The only thing I'm proud of is my Hackett button from the
Black Hills.
Black Hills that I got, because I
Now-
think I'm at like 20 or 30 now at this point. I think I'm at 20.
Now all of these people are listening and they're like, oh, that's how we can get Chris to do the courses. We'll just add a Credly badge. Yeah. Let's see. I'm gonna go ahead and pull this. Yeah,
One
go
thing I
ahead.
would like to say, because I'll out myself. That was my resume, and very fair points. I appreciate you guys' critique on that, and I've already made the changes.
Oh, good. Like I said, it shows really good experience. It just,
Yeah, no,
Yeah.
there's a reason why I submitted it. I needed that. So
Yeah.
I love
It's
So
that
now
also-
you all
action.
know that you guys were just bashing on 8-bit over here.
I'm okay with that.
It's funny because, I probably could have known, but I didn't know whose that was, but my guess was 8-bit.
And that's
Just
the whole
because I'm
point is
familiar.
Yeah.
we do the redaction just so it's not live streamed to YouTube, but then also because a lot of the different resumes that we do cover are community members that typically do engage with the live streams, and so we just want to give everyone the option to where you're not outed.
no, absolutely. I mean,
Well-
I volunteered it just now, so I mean,
Well-
and I just wanted to say that I appreciated
Yeah.
that. So
Well, the part I really find difficult is like each one of these resumes are formatted a little differently. And it's funny because there's really no true right way or wrong way to do it. There might be little pieces of them where like, too many bullets or those images shouldn't be there. But for the most part, they're all still formatted okay. Like there's no perfect way, which is the most annoying part about doing a resume. There's nothing that everyone's like, this is the way you do it. Like, can we please just get a standard? Like, please, it would make it so much easier for everybody.
My 2 cents on the formatting is less is more. So
Correct.
Keep it short and simple, and don't be extra on the formatting. Don't go and get some Google whatever format that you download. Just type it up.
I
and keep it simple.
will I will definitely agree with that. And I even know that mine was a little longer than what most people would like to see. But I have seen resumes in the past where like there'll be some weird bar, like a blue
Yeah, don't
bar
do
on
all
the
that.
side, and
Yeah.
they'll have like a bunch of different things, and
Yep.
it makes your eyes go all over the place. And I agree with you guys when I look at a resume, and I've looked at a few of them myself, but sometimes the way and this is just my opinion, the way I see it is kind of like how I formatted my own, which I would have like a summary, a technology, your experience, and I'm a firm believer that probably education should be at the end, because you want to showcase what you've done, and then people want to know what you know,
So,
if that makes
I
sense.
agree with that. When you have experience in the industry, definitely you can put your education and certifications at the end. But if you're trying to get into the industry and you don't have that professional experience, you want to push that to the top. So that's the first thing that they see.
Yeah,
instead
yeah,
of
I
your
agree with that. Yeah.
experience, and they're like, why the heck is this person
Yeah.
applying? You
Well,
know?
and it depends on the experience. Like I said, I have 20 years of experience in IT, but not officially in security. And I wasn't getting calls until I took all my project stuff. And I can't remember who mentioned it. I might have saw it in the GRC masterclass of Jerry's when he was talking to the person about the job readiness stuff. And I took my projects and stuff and put it above all my work experience. And that right there made the difference. Like, because I guess people didn't want to look through all that experience first to then see, oh, he actually has done some of these things as projects, so he has a little experience.
Yeah. Also, Rhonda said that one of her messages disappeared. Let me know if there is an issue with that, because YouTube does have an auto mod feature just to limit spam and so forth, like obvious spam.
What is Rhonda sending?
Yeah, I mean that's the bigger question. Like, what are you sending, Rhonda? But this is the last message I do see from you, stating that don't feel bad, 8-bit. They absolutely shredded mine. I should actually find the video where, like, one of the very first, what led us to do the regular group resume review is because we started doing we had 2 sessions where we looked over resumes, and we did mine. And I think everyone was the most harsh on mine, actually. I don't think anybody else has been roasted as bad as mine was. I need to add my newly updated one in here too, but yeah, like, you guys were mean. That's what almost led to this being called a resume roast.
You're very welcome. I don't think I was
and Rhonda, don't worry. I don't feel too bad. That's the reason why I'm confident enough to go ahead and be up here, and I take criticism, as something that's constructive. If everything's perfect, you don't learn anything. So I mean, and nobody's perfect. Even with all my experience and everything else, I'm still not perfect.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, I know. I'll say when I first started looking for a job, like 2 or so years ago, when I started doing this, I went back to where I got my 1 degree from, and they provided for free resume help and job help stuff to find a job. And I said, great, here's my resume. It was shredded. Like, she shredded it to pieces and it was brutal. But it needed to be done because my resume was so old.
And then we got this third one as well. So this is the last one that we have so far, and then we can move into other topics or otherwise. Immediately off the bat, I think most people may also mention the very lengthy summary.
Definitely way too long. Should be.
This is also a 3-page resume, which could also be how it was exported, but
2 or
3 words.
It's like, what, 3 to 4 sentences at most for a professional summary. There should never be a second paragraph to it, ever.
Yeah, I think you should aim for like maybe 3 sentences.
Yeah, some of that 3 to 4 being like pushing it, but 2 to 3.
Yeah.
Oh yeah, no way. So this could be trimmed big time because they're talking about all their experience, like in scripting. Like you don't need to. That should be, some of that stuff should really be put in a skills or technology, like that should be in its own section, not in the professional summary. Not the way they're breaking it down.
Mm-hmm. Anything else? It's the same thing with the bulletin points too. So it looks like just overall, this is just really lengthy. I think the most important thing to note here is that the recruiters don't spend very much time on this. And so you do have to be, somewhat concise with it. Listing out 2 or 3 sentences for the bulletin points is not going to be a good way to go. I'd be trying to keep those to like a sentence, try to keep it to the point. The last job, at least, you could probably go a little bit more, but I still think that might be too much on the first job. Listed there as a penetration tester. And then also you mark out, I'm jumping ahead a little bit here, but you say penetration tester, but the first thing you put there is perform OSINT. I don't know how I feel about that. I would probably be listing out like what tools and what type of stuff you were actually pen testing.
I don't know about that, but OSINT is definitely part of the penetration testing process. So one thing I do want to note out is that margin on the right-hand side is massive, but the one on the left is tiny. It could be the way it exported, But if it's not, I would definitely make those match, and then you'll have more space for your lines as well, so that your bullets could be a line or two max. But
Yeah. Thanks for hopping up, Flekinator. You have a good evening.
That was mine. So I think from the OSINT piece, that's kind of just how we have formatted it, just kind of within the group. So I see what you're saying. Um, from the professional summary, though, it's been a long time since I've done anything to the resume, honestly. So if I'm trying to convey that I'm trying to transition into GRC, how would you go about doing that in the summary?
How to condense this down in the summary?
Just to convey trying to get into GRC, looking for that type of role.
Are you looking for audit? Is that what you're trying to position towards?
I think, yeah.
Okay. Yeah, which is probably the most widely available, largest sector of GRC is audit.
Yeah.
Well, my take before other people pitch in on it is like in the professional summary part, you start out with information security professional, proficient in conducting external, internal, physical, and web application penetration testing. I would, especially if you're trying to position for GRC, I would be looking for that report writing and the soft skills aspect that you can draw on. I haven't looked at the rest of the experience that you have on your background, but that would be two of the different highlights, is that soft skills and your reporting as well. So you could even highlight in your professional summary, like in the first sentence or two, that you've conducted, 100 penetration tests, especially if you have access to your reports that you've done, you could even say accounting to 1,365 pages worth of reports within 150 assessments or something like that. And utilizing that word of assessments and reporting would be key areas that I would focus on in that professional summary. You could still mention that the external, internal penetration testing there, but also that reporting as well.
If I may make a suggestion, and feel free to disagree with me, guys, with what I'm about to say, but sometimes I've found myself a few times where I was trying to summarize something and condense it more, and and it doesn't. It's not always perfect. You always have to double check your work, but I'm not against taking what I'm trying to convey and then copy paste it in ChatGPT and asking for a better summary or something that I'm trying to get that is more condensed. And sometimes that helps me figure out what it is I'm trying to convey with less words.
yeah, you could absolutely do that and
100%.
prompt it to,
That's a good
pull
idea.
out the GRC aspect and then take its output and make it your own. Don't copy paste ChatGPT onto your resume.
Yep.
Is the only thing I want to disclaim there. But
Yeah.
I agree with that. Additionally, there's a lot of things in pen
Yeah.
testing that you can relate to GRC, such as like risk and whatnot, because I know in your pen test reports, you're finding vulnerabilities, and then you have to assign a risk level to those, and you can convey that in a GRC aspect.
100%. And that's, so just like the other people also mentioned, is that, you can utilize a lot of that terminology in that summary. And then just, prompting with ChatGPT, there's nothing wrong with it. You could utilize it as a tool to just assist you on, what keywords or what have I done that really relates to it. So you could take that and draft something. I think that's a really good portion there. Does that kind of answer that question for the
Thank
summary?
you.
Awesome.
Bam. And then education and certifications.
I think that's pretty good.
The only part here that I don't really like is that there's not like a gap between the college and the certifications. You have that second line for the college portion,
Oh yeah.
but that's a very small pet peeve.
I would even,
And I think the formatting issue there on the date is probably the
I would
export.
switch
I
those
hope.
top 2 lines as well. I would put your associate degree and then put your college information below it. And you don't even have to put your college name or where, like, you could put the degree and the date that you got it.
I do have one question. The GI
Yeah.
certifications, are those still valid?
Yes, I actually just renewed both of them.
Nice. There you go. Yeah.
Bam.
Yeah, I mean, it's just me personally. I mean, no, yeah. That's cool. Yeah. Because I see the dates and I don't know about you guys. I don't know if that would be necessary or not. I mean, I didn't put it on mine, but I mean,
Yeah, I've heard
obviously.
mixed reviews about that.
Okay. All right.
Yeah, my personal opinion is I think it's just kind of assumed that they'd be valid, but if it is expired, like, then I would just list expired next to it. Because I, depending on what it is, especially if it's a SANS cert, I may actually list it still, even if it's expired. Because I
SANS.
mean,
Yeah, because I left.
Yeah,
it's SANS. I mean,
Hey,
it's
no.
not cheap. Most people, there's not as many people in
Yeah,
industry
the
with that.
STEM
So
certs, I can definitely understand that. If you want to keep those in there, even if they're expired. For the most part, any of my certs, I
Yeah.
just left them off my resume that if they're expired.
Yeah, like I wouldn't list an
Yeah.
expired A
And-
plus or something.
Right.
You know.
Yeah, and I was going to say the same thing for the first position there too, just like with the summary, is tailoring that to the GRC side. I had mentioned, like, I don't know about that OSINT as the very first bulletin point. I think you could replace that first bulletin point with, like the report writing aspect and assessment aspect, especially since you're going for a GRC related role. You could still have the OSINT in there. I think that's great. I just don't think that it should be the first one listed. And tailoring that to the GRC.
Yeah, now that
aspects.
I am reading it and
So
on this side, there's social engineering, right? So it's kind of redundant if you kind of marry those two together.
Another thing too.
well, and it sounds to me like B-dubs, BritWhite.io needs to have like an article about, the overlap between the two, for, hackers and so forth coming over to GRC.
I mean, I can do that. I've definitely used my PJPT certification in a GRC interview and got the job. So, but
Bam.
so what was I gonna say? Oh, in the professional experience on your bullets, you're talking about like what you like your job duties. I would position that more what you did for the company, like what value you brought. So using metrics, I did this and increased X percent or made, X amount of dollars, that sort of thing, rather than just talking about your job duties.
Yeah. And then we do have a couple questions here. So I'm moving into GRC with no IT experience, but my job involves compliance, not cyber. Should I list GRC projects before job experience or highlight compliance first?
I think I would have to see the resume to really answer that one. Because I would still.
I think it also depends on what job you're applying
Depends on
to.
what job you're applying to and what that experience is. Because if it's not cyber, I would still be inclined to put your projects first. But that also depends on what your projects are.
And what type of compliance are we talking about? Like, are we talking about like FDIC or, some type of regulatory? Like, what type of compliance?
Well, and how involved in that
topic that's not cyber? Yeah. Because, like, you could really take that and run with it really well on the GRC side, even if it's not a technical compliance. Maybe it's just, compliance with policies and procedures or something along those lines. Like that's still something you could really heavily, largely run with. And then did anybody else have a mention here on that question there? And then we'll move on to the second question before we go to the page 2. Were you trying to talk there, Cyber Gangster?
Sorry about that. Yeah, I should have turned it off. Yeah.
Good.
So one of the things I was thinking is also which pieces do you feel comfortable about owning more expertly about? You know what I'm saying? Like which one do you feel you have more mastery over? Maybe those go on the top 2. I agree with everything else that everyone else has said as well. But if you feel like you can if you can talk about more of the compliance side, then maybe that goes towards the top.
Yeah, and then what is the consensus on cover letters?
Look, with AI, it doesn't take much to build them, so just use it and send it. I don't think they read it. I don't think that it matters, to be honest with you. But AI makes it so easy these days. I think you should just build it. Because once you prompt it well enough, it kind of just makes it for you. So
Yeah, so with cover letters, what I'm going to say is don't even worry about them unless the job specifically asks for it. If the job specifically asks for it and you don't send one, then they're not even going to look at your resume because you didn't follow directions. Otherwise, I don't think that cover letters are necessary.
Yeah, and like Luke, Cyber
Exactly.
Research also mentions in chat if they ask for it. That would be my opinion too, is if they ask for it, then I would include one. But otherwise, I'm not doing a cover letter for it. I think that is for maybe some more maybe senior level roles or, some more specialized roles. But I think cover letters are kind of dying out to an extent, to be honest.
Yeah.
I
the
agree
majority.
with that too. As a matter of fact, as far as cover letters go, I actually kind of created a cover letter boilerplate where it's kind of generic, but it kind of lines out of what I do or what I am, and then I just basically just replace the role, the name of the company, maybe a date. I'd have to look at my boilerplate, but that's what I basically do as far as if there's any cover letters that is asked for.
And definitely short and sweet. I think if you're
Yeah.
Yeah, they don't need your whole life story.
Yeah, and also like Rhonda's saying the same thing there too. Rhonda, a quick question regarding the cover letters. Is that something that is required for those government resumes? I know Rhonda's a little bit more diverse in that area. Considering like it's like 4 or 5 page requirements and all kinds of different requirements for the government resumes. I'm kind of curious. Chris Collins also shouts out on, I write a cover letter even if not needed, helps me get my thoughts together on why I want/can bring to the job and how I'm going to say it in the interview. And I think that's a really good shout out too, is like, even if you're not using the cover letter, when you're drafting these and tailoring out the resumes for a particular job role, that's a really good shout out, Chris Collins, on how you could still do one just so that way you are better prepared to respond during the interview, even if you're not actually going to use that cover letter. That's actually a really, really smart thing to do there.
So do you feel like, okay, I don't know how to ask this the proper way, but old school, I feel like cover letters kind of were it's part of the whole process of things, right? Does it seem like cover letters not being included is definitely like the new thing within the last, I don't even know how many years to say?
Yeah, cover letter.
That's what I would say. I would say cover letters are dying out, personally. I don't see it.
Ask for it.
And where do you find this? Like, how do you feel like that? Where or when did that equal into the equation?
When they started getting thousands of applicants.
But was that like the market you felt telling you that?
became
Or
less
was that
important.
more of like, I'm just not going to spend my time on making a cover letter?
Just by looking at the different jobs that are out there, like you could take let's just say 10 different job postings, right? I think there's a very high likelihood based on what I've seen where none of them are going to ask for it. Now, if you take 100 different jobs that are out there randomly in the industry, maybe 3 or 4 of them may ask for a cover letter. So it's a very small percentage that I see asking for a cover letter at all.
Is that, and do you feel like that observation comes from jobs that you see primarily on LinkedIn or various message or job boards?
I would say for me personally, various. So Indeed, Dice, LinkedIn have been the ones that I've personally looked at. And then also even looking at the state job boards too. So like I've personally applied to a couple different state roles in 2 different states, and neither one of them, I didn't see any listings that actually asked for a cover letter, which I think is like the type of jobs that typically would.
Gotcha.
So.
I think it's good to hear that, that perspective, because I think even for me, like if I just hear the answer and not kind of the reasoning behind it, makes better sense for me. So,
Of course. And like if I want to go through and I think I'm a good fit for a particular role that I'm going to apply to, and they actually ask for that cover letter, I will 100% include that. But if they don't ask for it, I'm not going to. I think it's just a mix on what I've seen personally. I've heard other people talk about similar things as well. But then also I think that did kind of change in, I don't know, maybe the last 5 years or so, just because there's so many applicants. They're spending less time looking over the resumes themselves, and then it's just unneeded fluff in the outcome, really. When I have come across those, most of the time it's going to be for more senior level roles where you're going to be making, $200K a year, or, you're up that food chain, maybe an executive role or something like that would be requiring that kind of stuff. But especially for that entry and mid-level, I haven't really seen that. So do you feel,
and just having a conversation about the cover letter piece, do any of you, and in the chat, please join in to feel like if you're going for that mid-senior level positions, should you go ahead and just include a cover letter, even if the position doesn't ask for it?
My stance still stands the same. I would only send it if they ask for it.
Same.
And it's going to ask for that either in the job description itself, or if it's like, one of those online application processes and it's like, here, attach your cover letter. That would be the only time that I send it.
Gotcha. Okay. Thank you.
Yeah, and then also I had asked Rhonda about the federal one, and so Rhonda does state that the federal resume requires every job you have ever held back to your very first paid job. That also rules B-dubs out for any type of federal roles. I think that's pretty important to know.
I'm not going to sit here and try and list out every job I've ever had. There's far too many.
Yeah, okay.
No, I'm good.
And then also Ben Tech mentions, I work in the public sector and coordinate a job program where we have to follow federal state policy. And that's an important note too. So that job program that Ben Tech deals with follows the federal state policy. I guess that would coincide with the federal resume, policy and so forth, requiring like what Rhonda was saying. That's what that kind of sounds like. 8-Bit also dropped a bunch of stuff here. So LinkedIn, Dice, ZipRecruiter, state boards. And if you are trying to get into the industry, it's not a bad idea to go to a temp agency. I think a lot of people overlook state boards. So almost every single state, if not every single one, has some type of job board. And like, for an example, I've seen both Texas and the state of North Dakota both have a public sector and a private sector job board as well. So they list out like different positions available for private sector and what's available on the state and city level. I think it's a really good opportunity. And I've seen, at least what I've seen, is quite a few entry level.
So I'm sorry, go ahead. I apologize.
Mm-hmm. I was just going to say, I wouldn't rule that out. Like, if you're trying to break in, I would definitely still keep an eye on those.
Yeah,
those
and
boards.
when I said earlier too about if you're trying to get into the industry, I'm talking tech industry in just general, because I mean that's how I was able to get my foot in the door. Is I went to a temp agency and I took anything they gave me, because what I did before I did tech, because I got into it when I was 30. I mean, I did asphalt construction. I worked in kitchens. I was a chef, but nobody was going to hire somebody with a couple certifications, but no experience. So I literally went to a temp agency, and they would throw me work here and there, and I would take it, and I would just run with it.
Yeah, that's a great idea. I think I've had a few recruiters come into the Cyber Gangsters Discord in the past, and that's always been one of the high things that's like for folks who've never had experience in any tech industry position, those temp agencies can really work out. Now I want to add a caveat to that. So my experience, 8-bit, I don't know if y'all saw any of the recruiters talking about LinkedIn, right? So I stopped applying for jobs on LinkedIn because there's like a 50% dead rate on there. I don't know how you want to call it, right? But basically 50% of the jobs on LinkedIn aren't being managed, reviewed, looked at, however you want to say it. And so to me, with a 50%, having a 50% possibility of not having my resume and everything looked at, I just couldn't handle that anymore. And so for me, I ended up cutting out LinkedIn completely. If I saw a job on there that I liked, I would either just go to their website or go to Indeed or Glassdoor, wherever, any of the other sites. But LinkedIn, I totally stopped using
So
to specifically apply.
that's actually what I always recommend is I use LinkedIn as a search engine to find jobs because there's a lot of different ways that you can find and search within LinkedIn. I really like it. I'll use, some of the other platforms, Dice or whatever, to also search for those jobs. But if
Mhm.
I'm applying to jobs, I will then take those jobs and go to the company's website, make sure it's legit, make sure it's not some scam. I only advise applying on the company's website.
Es-
Mm-hmm.
Especially with how many scams are out there, I think that's
Yeah.
extremely important. Is going directly to it. I think far too many people use Quick Apply, whether it be on Indeed or LinkedIn or otherwise, and so forth. There's not enough of an approval process, in my opinion. I always try to go to the job board, especially if I'm uploading my own personal information. I try to go
And
directly to the source.
Oh, go
If
ahead.
you're
You first.
oh, sorry. If you're using Quick Apply, you're not tailoring your resume. So, I mean, sure, it takes 2 seconds to apply. I mean, you could try, but more than likely, you're not going to get it anyways.
Well, and I think it's also important to note that everybody's experience is a little bit different. Like PBO stated that he's gotten jobs from Quick Apply, but not from tailoring. But I think that all depends on the individual in those different jobs because, like, it's so diverse.
I would say it's even, honestly, it's a chance. Like, if the recruiter that's accepting or looking through those quick applies, again, 50%, there's 50% that are looking at it that are not ghost jobs, as Rhonda mentioned. And so those, so you're still going to get a chance, but that's too great of a chance when you don't have that same percentage with the other jobs. That's my only piece to it. So I wouldn't say don't apply for them, but your mileage may vary. I think that would be better.
Yeah.
Yeah, and then jumping back into this resume portion. So this is page 2 of this resume. So this is the last one. I think it coincides with a lot of the same stuff that we were saying about the first page. And one of the other resumes is way too many bulletin points. And I think that this could be tailored more towards GRC as well, especially if you're going to that audit role. So like this very first one. And then also one thing I also noticed is the dates too. Yeah, so IT security analyst back to back at 2 different roles. I don't think that's a bad thing, but like that undisclosed number 3, was that an internship or was that just a short period? Well, I guess that was almost 2 years, so it's not as bad.
It could have just been a pivot.
I would probably take the...
Yeah, it was a pivot. So I was 4 years in that role and then moved over to security.
Yeah, I agree with Chris. There's too many bullet points on there. I would suggest 3. 4 if it's a really super one.
Was that it?
3 and then make them numbered. Or what do they say? How do they call it? Like
metrics.
Yeah, there you go. Thank you. Metrics.
I would say for these, and based on your experience, and you already have experience in the cybersecurity industry, you're just trying to pivot to GRC. I would say 3 max on all of these. Focus more on your pen testing experience than these, and I would make these 3 bullets like one line each with metrics. That way they can see the dates and whatnot. But I wouldn't go too far in these.
And I'll say for that, on that,
Well, and
in last year, I was doing this type of resume at the beginning, and then in the middle, I was like, I'm stopping this, and I went to what the suggestions have been: 3 bullet points, 1 line each, in metrics. And so my resumes started getting very short. But I also noticed that and I was also only doing jobs that I felt related to the position that I was applying for. So there were gaps in my job history, yes. So I probably only had like 3 or 4 jobs on there, but I started getting a lot more calls for interviews after I did that. And then when I'd get in those interviews, people would be like, so we noticed the dates are all different. I'm like, oh yeah, I know. I'd play it off, right? I'd be like, yeah, I kind of did what I thought was more relevant to the job. But I do have a fuller resume right here, and I'd always hand them the full resume that had everything, and then be able to go into detail, and then they would ask questions, and I could fill it in. So it became more engaging.
Okay.
mm-hmm.
Did you still?
Yeah, and something else I was gonna
ask.
go ahead.
Flickenator mentioned earlier, and I kind of have heard this in my experience in the past. Do you still hold to like that 7 to 10 year experience? So obviously my resume goes further back than this, but it goes past that 10-year mark. So do we keep that there? Do we remove it?
I would
I
stop at 10.
Yeah, I would stop at 10 also, unless you have just some really crazy. Like my very first job in IT was a long time, and it was relevant to PCI, like hugely relevant. So I always include that on all my PCI work, because you don't see a lot of people who have direct point of sale and PCI knowledge together. And so being able to utilize that on my resumes was always just like, people always ask me about that, always.
Okay.
And that was more than 10 years ago. So.
And one of the things I was going to mention is, what are your guys' opinion on those 2 different ones? So it says same company as above. I see that they were that system admin for that 4 years or otherwise. But like I've seen a lot of people put those into the same role themselves. That condenses down the resume itself, and then they just go out and they list the different skills and so forth, and outline, system administrator pivoted to IT security.
So I've definitely condensed
what is
in my resume. So before cybersecurity, I was in the cabinet industry, and I designed custom cabinets. So it's the same role. It wasn't relevant to my job. I worked at 2 different companies, but it was 4 different pivots. So instead of having 4 sections, I definitely combined that into 1 section. Here's what I did. It was all the same, but I worked for 2 different companies, and then that was it. I didn't go into too much on it because it wasn't relevant. This is more relevant. You could combine those 2 based on, what you did in each role. I would also say it's 2025. You could probably even knock off that yeah. So
then it says undisclosed 3 as well.
Yeah.
I think the system admin role is important, but that's also why I'm saying like you could combine those. Those were at the same company as it mentions. And so I would put that into the same role, have it 2016 to 2021, and then I would just list it as, system administrator, moved over to or pivoted to IT security analyst, and then you could combine those into one. I think also showcases it better because it shows that you were not only at the same company for that period of time, but then also you moved from that system admin to a security related role. So that's
I'm going to go the opposite way. I'm going to say keep it split. I'm definitely not disagreeing with you guys, but I can make the
Look at you disagreeing.
I'm not trying to be abrasive, so please don't take it as that. It's just, I do think that if you feel like you can showcase, because at the end of the day, you get all the advice, but you have to sleep in your bed, JT, and everybody else. We all do, right? So we have to speak to the mastery of our resume and make sure that we love it and that we are like, so you take the advice, you incorporate it, and you run with it, man. I think the damaging thing sometimes has been, and I've fallen into this trap too, is I keep flip-flopping my resume. And if I keep flip-flopping my resume, I think there's going to be breaks, and it's going to be, what if I accidentally apply to the same company a couple times and it just looks weird? All of a sudden you have different titles, you have different jobs. It looks like you have different jobs, right, when they're the same. So I can't tell you what to do in that, but I'll say is I make my case for keeping it split. To keep it split, you are able to use those 3 points for that one job that you had that you feel like is, it's relevant enough to apply for the position that you're going for. And you show that for both. So you have those extra experience points for the job titles that you had. I know, like at the big Fortune 50 company here in town, the State Farm is one of them, and people move departments all the time. And so,
yeah, go ahead.
So it makes it, it helps when they're trying to showcase that on the resume.
Gotcha.
So,
yeah, what I was going to mention here is that, so the third page is actually just a cutoff. So it says at the very bottom here, community involvement and supporting activities. And then on the third page, it just lists those out. That's the last part of the resume itself. So like leading DEF CON 864 group. So that's 2019 to 2024. Administrative lead for the Discord platform, social media accounts presented on password managers and getting into information security. B-sides, multiple different B-side locations. And then also Upstate ISSA group. That's the last part of that resume portion there. And then also, where is this ban button? Cyber research. Let's see. No.
Ban button.
The ban button. No, we like pushback. That's one of the best benefits of this and community is getting different perspectives and so forth. We're all here to provide our recommendations. None of this is, oh, you have to take action. And that's where, whether it's here and everywhere else, get multiple perspectives. That's the best way to do things. Not only to learn, but then also improve is multiple perspectives.
I agree with that statement, 100%.
Absolutely. And I'll fight cyber gangsters because I'm going to say, combine all of that, and because less is more, in my opinion. But that's me. We can fight later, cyber gangsters.
So to kind
one
of
of the main reasons.
I was just going to ask for both sides, right? Pro and con. Where my mind goes is, what's the likelihood of it confusing somebody seeing it that way or not?
Well, and like the main reason why I mention it is because they're going for a GRC role, and neither one of those are direct relations, so those could be easily combined.
Yeah.
And showcase it better that it was a pivot inside of that company, and it would look better if they're combined, in my opinion, for the experience, for the length of the term there.
And unless you want to, and it's relevant to the role you're applying to, the only job title you have to list is your most recent one. Or it doesn't even have to be you could pick any job title because it's accurate for that time period. But you could just list one job title for that one company and leave it. Or you can, show it as a pivot, however you want to showcase that, depending on what job you're applying to.
Any final remarks on this resume?
I'm just wondering that last bit right there, with the DEF CON stuff and B&B sides and ISSA group. I'm just wondering if that could be integrated along with the top from the first page. What is it called again? If you could go to the first page. The
like
professional summary, yeah, like you could. I think that could be integrated in up there, but that's my opinion. Um, I mean, I love seeing that. I will say that I
Well,
do love seeing that.
Well, and especially to save space here too, like I've seen it too, where you could take that and you could on the underneath your professional summary, like I mentioned with one of the other resumes, is you could just add one line and say, like group associations, and you could do like leading DEF CON 864 group, and then you could also list out like all the B-sides and ISSA group just on a single line for associated groups or otherwise as well, right underneath your professional summary. I could see that as an option.
The only thing with that, I agree with putting it all on one line. The only thing I disagree with is he does have a note in there that he presented on. So he gave a talk in that local DEF CON group. And I think that would be important because that shows a lot when you get up and actually present on something.
Mm-hmm.
I think that would be something to go into the professional summary itself, not included in there. And like the Discord platform and social media accounts, I don't think even apply. No. I personally would take that out.
Yeah, same.
So
would that take away from the idea of having 3 to 4 sentences in the professional summary?
Yeah, I got tired of explaining to people what Discord was. So
yeah.
I've moderated Discord servers for a long time now, and I got tired of people asking like, "Oh, what is Discord?" And then like my best response is like, "It's like Teams or Slack, just different."
It's funny because I don't even mention Discord to people most of the time because the thing is I have a love-hate relationship with Discord. I really, really hated it at first, but then I found out how useful it was because everybody used it for video games and everything else, and I'm just like, it's like fine. Eventually, I gave in and I did it.
Well, and I'll be completely upfront and honest. I absolutely hate Discord. I've been using Discord like quite a bit for 10 years now, and basically, it's a real big love-hate relationship. Their privacy policy is absolutely horrid. But the biggest reason why I'm so involved with Discord is just because of the communities there. If, for an example, these communities went somewhere else, like the Matrix sites or there's other community aspects out there too, then I would 100% convert. But the downside is we have so many amazing communities in there. It's a compromise is literally what it is.
But so, I mean,
it is disappointing.
Yeah, but I mean, back to what you're saying, like I understand having to explain to people what Discord is. Sometimes I'll ask is like, do you have a Discord? And if they say no, I'm like, never mind. If they do have a Discord, then I say, hey, if you want to go be part of these other types of servers, I'll show them real quick. And I'll be like, drop me a request and I'll send you a bunch of invites. So that's what I normally do.
Yeah, I mean, that's the thing is that there's like 15 different servers that they don't have a community anywhere else.
Yeah.
So, yeah, and then we also have like people like Anti-Siphon Black Hills that's like their main hub. So, I see it as a no option. One of the big things that I will outline is so me and Dwight were doing the privacy series where we were publishing one short video about 20 minutes in length or less every single week. That is coming back in March. So like probably around the third week of March next month. And so one of the things I was going to mention is that we have that really well lined out, but also one of the videos I wanted to do is I actually did a data request for Discord, and I was actually going to do a video showcasing all the information that Discord does have. And one of the important factors that I want to mention here, because I've looked, so like my Discord itself, I've definitely skipped different accounts over the years. So like this account that I'm currently using is only about 2 years old. I won't disclose how many others, because I mean, that would be against the terms of use, but nobody would have more than one. One of the big highlights though, is that there is not only DMs, but also messages that were deleted well over like literally 2 years ago that are still in existence inside of their servers too. They do not appear to have a data retention policy. So that is an important thing to note, is that literally anything and everything you submit on there is very likely to basically stick around until they run out of storage. So yeah. And Yeah, so there's a lot of stuff that coincides with that, but that's a video I hope to publish out sometime next month. I think it's really interesting. You can go into your Discord settings and request all of your data, and at least they do send you that. But yeah, that also goes to showcase some other mentions too. So not only the data retention issue, but then also location data. They do track location data and device usage. So like I could literally go through, like if I made a Python script for it, I could extract the location data from my mobile app and actually, throw it onto a map, because they do track location data and how often you open the app, it running in the background, time usage, how long you stay into each server, all kinds of different analytical data on that as well. So Discord isn't free for most people because, they like the communities. It's because they, sell that data. So, and they got to make money somehow.
Yep.
But yeah, wanted to throw that out there while we're on the topic of Discord. It's definitely a love-hate relationship. And now my main account's probably going to get banned.
I would just add too that anything you post online is going to be just expected to stay there forever. And I mean, chatting in Discord is posting online, and so just expect it to stay there forever, even if you delete it. There's logs and everything, so just be mindful of that.
Yeah, and I think that's a really good way to approach that. And it's just like Luke Cyber Research states, is how is that different from any other big tech company? I think it depends. So like for an example, you could request your data to be deleted from Discord, but they don't delete all of it. And they make that obvious too. And then also like another big issue I have is like, if you look at GDPR, you have the right to correct and modify your data, but you also have the right to be forgotten. Where are the checks and balances for that? What about backups? There's a lot of different things that are in the industry that there's no check and balances for. So if I request my data to be deleted, how do I know it's actually deleted? And how would you even implement that? Like I think taking that mindset of anything you do on the internet, anything you submit and so forth is on there forever. I truly believe that there is that permanent record, which is a great book shout out to. Definitely look up Permanent Record.
No, I agree. Unless you're hosting it yourself, I mean, there's no guarantee.
Even if you host it yourself, that data is still getting archived in the server somewhere.
In a log somewhere.
So, yep. That's the scary part in the world that we live in. But yeah. I think that's where it all comes down to maybe not. Oh, look at B-Dubs just outing people.
Well, it was private chat and he outed himself, so.
Yeah, and also like that's another benefit to coming up on stage. Everybody's welcome to come on stage. You do not have to turn on your camera if you do not want to, but there's even a private chat.
That's not seen by folks, right?
No, it's private.
Oh, everybody can see who's on the stage.
Just us. Okay, that's fine. Okay.
Yeah.
So if you want to know what it was, you have to.
Yeah, but if you guys want to see that super secret private chat, you got to join the stage. If you want to know what
it was, you have to join the stage to find out.
I apologize for missing the beginning, so I wasn't sure if there was like how it was all, I was like, whoever's resume that was, did we get them? Did they feel good, or are they?
Yeah, and then Cyber Research says that he doesn't like the stage. Is that because your facial data or otherwise, or your voice is going to get duplicated?
Or you're just afraid that you're that good that you're going to break the internet? Because some people,
he would break the internet.
They look that good, and they speak.
That good.
Yeah, so that's what I believe.
Yeah, now we have like a 20-minute period here before we start bringing it to the end. So if anybody has any questions or topics or anything like that, we went through those 3 different resumes in detail. I think we provided a lot of good insight as a group here. But yeah, so now it's just more casual discussion at this point.
For those resumes, there's a piece that I want to add. It's always that we work a lot on the technical and trying to refine and do these things that we want to work for us. Then there's always that one piece, that big piece is there's the human piece that's in there that we can do everything the right way or that's been suggested, but at the end of the day, well, the ATS is going to either help us out or not. And then also the person who reads it and looks at it, there's going to be that piece that they get out of it also. If the words connect with them, if it's formatted properly, whatever it is, and it makes them be like, oh, okay, I like this, or no, it looks like the rest.
I think a really important thing to note too is there seems to be like ATS has basically turned into a buzzword at this point. Not every company uses an ATS, but then also everybody likes to talk about ATS, but you don't hear enough discussion about networking. Get out there, go to local groups, start networking with communities and so forth, because that's also how you bypass that ATS system.
Go make a friend.
Yes,
Luke?
yes. I
Yeah.
just got my new position because of things that I've been working on. I'll just say my brand, and I always bring this up with folks. I'm like, if you're not working on your brand, I mean, you could potentially look exactly the same as all the thousands of people out there, and your brand isn't just your technical experience or your certifications. Your brand includes how, like who's ever that last resume was that mentioned that they led what was it, something in DEF CON, and they presented on a couple of different things.
That's me. Yeah.
Okay, those are like major things, and in fact, I would say like, build like fluff those up big time, because you don't see enough people who are like, yeah, I lead, or I lead discussions in an open forum and talk to rooms full of people on these topics. I think that's a powerful thing, and it goes back to building your brand, and that's what markets you as different than everyone else. And a sea of everyone looking the same on paper, what differentiates you from that? And like, I love when I can tell people, hey, go to TED Talk, put my name in there, you're gonna find me up there. Go to YouTube, pull up my name, you're gonna see several YouTube things that have my name and my face on there where I've done. So those are things that are going to make me stand out.
Well, I want to call this out too. It's not easy to make a friend, and that's true. I struggle with it, but I want to point something out. In this industry, we're all introverted weirdos, and that's something we all have in common. We're all a bunch of nerds. Well, I guess except Chris, but
Nerds.
yeah, we're all a bunch of nerds. So like, get out to these local events. And
Hey.
I'm more
Discord
extrovert.
over-
I'm the weird guy.
Hey, I just called myself out too. So I'm in that category. I'm an introverted weirdo.
Hey, if you enjoy
So-
reading NIST docs, you are a
yes.
nerd.
I'm with you, JP. Extrovert all the way.
Like, just put yourself out there and go introduce yourself to a stranger. I've never met someone at a conference, local event, meetup, or whatever, that if I just introduced myself randomly, a conversation didn't spark. So yes, I agree that it's hard to make a friend, but just do it. Get outside your comfort zone, and you'd be surprised.
I like that, B-dubs. Get out of your comfort zone. Great piece of advice.
Cyber research. If you are able to come up on audio, I would love for you to share your story around Go Make a
Please.
Friend. So I do want to I want to just mention that section. So B-dubs over here, just totally stole that from cyber
Yeah.
research, and I'm trying to
This
find the
title
sticker here.
100%,
Jeez, it's somewhere in here.
100% came from Luke Cyber Research. So I'm pretty sure somewhere in the blog I called that out. It was inspired by him. So
Oh yeah.
I'll
Yeah,
give him all
and
that credit.
One of the
course.
things that I always sit there and say as well, because of the fact, and Dubs knows this, especially when I've been going out to my local communities, is just nothing says more than a handshake and a smile. You
Yeah.
don't have to say a lot, but that says
Well, and that's
that
why-
right there speaks volumes.
And 8-bit on that, like,
Yeah, and that's why I wanted
if
to
you
bring that
are
up.
like, as an extrovert, and I don't know, JT, you can tell me your part on this too. As an extrovert, when I see that smile or handshake from someone, that's like, oh, you're inviting me into a conversation. I'm on, like, thank you. Like, I feel like that's a spotlight on me. I'm the one who's going to be asking 1,000 questions, and so you've
And-
just engaged me. Like, I feel like for every introvert that engages with an extrovert, you're probably going to get a spotlight that shines on you, and it can make it easier, maybe not feel easier, but it can make it easier in those public settings.
It's an easier way to.
And so I went through and I dropped that article in chat too for Go Make a Friend. I definitely did want to bring that up because I think that's something that I see very looked over, especially for people trying to break in, is just getting used to making a friend and so forth. And so Luke is up here on audio. And so I just wanted to have you, if you don't mind sharing like where that came from, but also one of the rewards that you get if you ever, track down cyber research at one of these conferences is you get a fancy little Go Make a Friend sticker too.
Awesome.
So,
Heck yeah.
there's benefits to this
I need
too.
one.
I've got one.
That's
Yeah.
my mission now. That's my 2025 goal now.
Yeah. But yeah, Luke, if you wanted to go ahead and just share that aspect, I think it's a really great story with it. And then also just so everybody also gets like the context to it as well. I think it's something that we need to definitely share across the industry as a whole, is that go make a friend.
Can you hear me okay now? Okay, there we go.
Yep.
I'm having technical difficulties.
I hear you
I
fine.
hear you perfect.
Yeah.
Okay.
Oh, you gotta patch it.
Yeah, well, I'm on my... Yeah.
Yeah, your audio's coming in fine.
Okay, that's good.
Maybe he wanted
Well, I'm
his.
trying to share my screen, but I don't like my back behind me, so it's really strange. So the story, well, so for a long time, there's a little bit of backstory. In fact, there was like a short little LinkedIn post about it, and that's really the only thing I've ever posted about it. But for a long time, I've been purposefully trying to have good quote-unquote OPSEC because I thought, I'm in the cybersecurity realm. I don't want to be attacked. I want to be hidden. I want to be the gray man. The gray, there's, I don't know if you saw that show or that movie, Gray Man with, I can't think of his name. It was on Amazon. But I wanted to be the guy behind the scenes. So I kind of just always held back. And then finally I told my wife and said, I'm going to Wild West Hacking Fest in Deadwood. And I got my tickets, I think, in April of last year. And I went to Deadwood, and on one of the flights, because I had to take 2 flights, my wife, I was texting her back and forth, and she's like, is there any guys that look like you that's on the plane? And I'm like, yeah, and they're all going to Deadwood. And she's like, well, go make a friend. And so I really kind of took that to heart. And on the way there, that's where I met Senior Watson's son, Alan, on the flight there. And I think there was 3 other guys that were on the plane that we were just talking. One of them was Kevin. I think his name was Kevin. I can see his face. And then, when we got to the airport, we all had to ride a bus from Rapid City to Deadwood. And it's about a 45-minute drive. And I was like, you know what? I want to get people talking. So I just started saying, hey, let's play a game. Let's share a little bit about ourselves, like our passions and our skill set. Just something fun, nothing. And so since that group right there is kind of the basis of what the community that is what this is all about. I'm still friends with every single one of them. I still talk with them probably once a week, once every couple of weeks. There was about 8 or 9 guys, and it just kind of grew from there. And one of the things that, people were asking is like, why are you so friendly? Why do you talk to so many people? I said, well, my wife said to go make a friend. That's what I'm doing. And so it just kind of exploded from there, and it's been fun. And I realized it brings me so much joy. It truly does. And as Chris has said, it's kind of, we do all this because we're selfish, we're self-serving. And I like to meet people and say hi to them, especially at these conferences, because you see these guys standing in line next to you. They don't want to say anything to anybody. But if you say, hey, my name's Luke, not Luke, but whatever, put your name in there, obviously. But my name's Luke. Hey, what's your name? They smile and they lighten up. And it's just, even if they say it brings joy to them too, which brings me joy. And so it's just this big old cycle of just happiness. And
I love it.
Well, and not only, yeah, there's a lot of that aspect of it too, but also what I've also found is you learn a hell of a lot more. I've had incredible conversations with people. Like at Mile High, I just walked up to a guy and I'm like, oh, hey, this is me. This is what I do and so forth. What industry are you in? What do you do? How'd you get there and so forth? And it turned into like a 3-hour conversation and I learned all kinds of awesome stuff. So, and that's happened numerous times. So there's also that aspect, but also it's also not always industry related as well. So it's a lot of,
I'd like to add to that too, because there was something I was told a long time ago when I was a kid, because I never liked smiling when I was a kid. And then the teacher took me aside and she goes, and it's going to sound corny, but later on, and later on, I found out to be very true. Is that sometimes if you just smile at somebody, it's going to make their
Yep.
day. You know, I mean, just a simple smile can change a person's complete day.
You know, it's funny that you say that, 8-Bit. So I was with my daughter earlier. We were she asked me to take her to a dollar store because she wanted to get a late Valentine's gift for one of her friends. And she was getting all these gifts. And so we're at a table and she's looking at all the items there. And she goes, "Oh, Dad." And I was like, "What?" And she goes, "That woman looked at me and she smiled at me and I smiled back, but then I just turned around and kept talking to you." And I was like, What happened? What do you mean?" And she was like, "Well, I feel really bad. I should have smiled and waved my hand or something." And I was all like, "Okay, so what are we getting to?" But it just makes me laugh at that. I think not in a bad way, but like I think you're right. I think that's a good thing. I love that my 14-year-old was thinking along the same lines of what you're doing.
Oh, that's good. That's very good.
Yeah. My kids were also the ones when we were younger.
Bam.
They would be like, so we'd be in Walmart and they'd be 5-6-year-old, and then they'd tag them and they'd be like, "Dad, you need to go say hi to that man." And I'd be like, "What?" And they're like, "You need to go say hi to that man and invite him over for dinner tonight." And I'd be like, "What?"
And you're like,
No, it's the opposite. I'm like, if a kid as innocent as that is telling you this, you're like, what do you know that I'm not seeing? And so I'm like, so I walk up to them. I'm like, "Hi." So my daughter said you should come to our house for dinner tonight. So.
Yeah, and and thank you for also sharing that cyber research too. But yeah, I wanted to bring that topic up because like I said, I mean, I just find that to be overlooked. And there's a lot of different places that you can also meet people up with. What is it? Sec Maps, or I forget the name. InfoSecMap. .com. I'm going to drop that link because that's also a really good resource to find local groups and cons and so forth.
Well, and B-Sides also has its own website, which has all the registered B-Sides, which I found are pretty good.
Yeah.
Except for B-Sides Greenville. It's awful.
Oh.
It's old.
Oh, yeah.
Well, go help them out. Volunteer.
We've tried. That's another conversation.
Just how much I like badges. I mentioned Credley and so forth, but I got my Charleston B-Sides. Yes, so pretty, so pretty. It's nothing like, some people's like, I don't know, James McQuiggan, who has, 600 badges by now.
So I think to kind of tie some of this, like what we've been mentioning, is like the prospects of helping you land a role. It may not be today. It may not be at the end of the year. It may be 2, even 3 years later. But I do believe that networking with folks on some level, it can go to you. And I always tell the people in my Discord, so when we meet regularly, I'm like, man, if you're one of the silent ones, I promise you're also one of the forgotten ones. Like when it comes time for me to have any kind of influence on an opportunity for you, I'm not going to suggest you because I don't remember you either. Because it's who are outspoken, who are putting themselves out there, who are taking that chance. I hate to say it, but to be honest, those are the kind of folks who, and the silent people may have great smarts. I'm not discounting that, but the sea is grand, and I have to, when that influence comes or that opportunity comes, I have to pick something or someone when I can, and I'm only going to remember the folks that leave those lasting impressions, and that's usually going to be the ones who speak. And you don't even have to say the greatest things, but if I know you're engaging, I'm like, yeah, I want to work with this person, or I want this person to succeed, and et cetera, et cetera. I want everyone to succeed.
And I also want to premise this too, that there's a wrong way to go about it as well. So I think that not enough people are going out there and networking and finding, go make a friend and so forth. But then also, I've also seen people where they go to a local meetup or otherwise, and what do? They just walk up to people and say, "Hey, is your company hiring? Hey, I'm looking for a job." Or they just show up with 50 resumes and they're just literally handing it out. I've literally seen that, where they're literally just go to a local meetup and just handing out their resume. Like, that is the wrong way. There is a right way and a wrong way. You should be approaching it from a actually I'm out here to try to make friends and network, to learn more, to improve, to help each other out, and so forth. So that's another thing to be
you know what that connects to
aware
is
of.
we were talking about that last week, Chris, right? Or the week before, we were saying like those soft skills, like for all the learning and training that we're doing
Correct.
on the certifications for cybersecurity and all that. And I think BW had posted up some stuff, I think also, right? That was like a soft skills, like similar certifications in soft skills or something like that. Or maybe it was you, Chris. I don't know. But I think the point is that you've got to learn those things too. So if you feel like it's not your strong suit, well, just like in cybersecurity, we got to go out and start learning what that is and putting into practice those little bits that, hi, shake your hand. My name is,
And oh yeah, well, exactly. And then I think one really good way to approach it is, just talk about your passion. That's where we all really relate is, that security aspect, IT sector, different things like that. One of the biggest icebreakers for me is like, I was playing around with, a Raspberry Pi, or I set up Snort, or, just opening up the conversation to some extent. And then they're like, oh, really? Because I was working with Wazoo the other day or whatever. And then it just kind of naturally takes off from there. So trying to find some common ground, I think, is a good way as an icebreaker.
My favorite way to break the ice, and it's probably because of my personal background, is that a lot of times, and it's not for everybody, but everybody always has some kind of affinity to food, and so the thing is, it's like there's no better way to start a conversation than what's your favorite food?
I agree with that.
I think the Midwest especially is very well known for, how's the weather? Yeah. Oh, you're from Atlanta. How's the weather out there?
Well,
how's the folks? Watch out for deer.
With you saying that, I was trying to think about when we first met, and I don't think it was food. I don't remember, but I think we were just introduced to each other.
We were just introduced to each other. I'm trying to remember who and where, and then I think with
Phil.
it was probably Philip. Yeah,
it was Phil.
And I think our conversation actually started off with note taking and Notion and Obsidian, and we were going back and forth on notes.
We spent a whole hour at Dallas Hackers talking about note taking and Notion and Obsidian.
Yeah,
looking at all your notes.
Yeah, and
nerds.
And that was somebody I'd never met him before. I didn't know him on Discord at all. I was just at a meetup. I ran into 8-Bit. Now I know him. We're friends. So
I think another thing that's important too is that it's not just about the technical stuff, right? Where I'm at in Greenville, it's a small community, and people really gravitate. So like in the DEF CON meetings and stuff, we cater to all the things. It's like, do you like planting gardens or whatever? Come on and talk about it, right? So just listening to people, right? You're building that gap, building that trust right off the bat, right? And that's huge. And an opportunity to
straight cash
give back. You're right.
Yeah, and then we're coming to an end here, so we have a few minutes left. Thank you for everybody who was able to tune in. If you guys have any questions or concerns or anything else, definitely drop that in chat. You could also comment below if you're on replay. Join our Discord server, which is where you can go ahead and catch all of us outside of the live streams itself. Really great place to drop any questions, resources, everything else. And then we'll be back again tomorrow at 11 a.m. Central for our live AMA. We'll just have a 1 hour casual session. People can come up on stage. I'll probably start off with some of the news articles, which was a recent feedback. So we have some topics to work with off the bat, and that kind of gets that information out there as well. And then I just wanted to go around the room. Any final remarks, Jamie?
No, I feel like I've said a lot tonight, so I appreciate it. Thanks, Chris, for doing this. I always think that you are definitely one of the special ones out there in a good way. Okay. I love when there's folks who share the same spirit and heart of, sharing and helping people of all walks and not gatekeeping information and, feeling like there's enough for everyone. And, I get that from you. And so for those of you who are watching, even if it's in the replay, if this is your first time and you've made it this far, consider giving a follow, check the Discord. Chris and the community that have been combined or gathered, or however we want to say that, is a really open community. It's really awesome. And I appreciate
there's a lot of surrounding communities connected. Yeah, I appreciate it. Thank you very much. I don't know if there had to be an emphasis on special, but in a good way, but I appreciate it. B-Dubs, any final remarks, key takeaways?
No, I mean, my biggest thing is get out there. I mean, we talked about resumes, gave some advice, use that, but get out there, go make some friends, and, just dive into your passions and
Bam.
have conversations with people you don't know. Get outside your comfort zone, step out of the shadow, right? So.
And if you want to learn more for completely free, no paywalls or anything else, there's an awesome boot camp that's starting up for CISSP.
Yeah, I have my free boot camp starting. No. So Monday I'll have another blog coming every single Monday on brittwhite.io, as well as Tuesday starts the first session for the study group for the CISSP. I dropped a brand new video this morning. It was an overview about the exam and ethics and whatnot. So I have a lot of things coming on. So excited for it.
B-Dub, is the idea, real quick, that we could be trained enough by the end to take the CISSP? Is that kind of the thought process?
Well, so I'll be covering every single topic in the exam outline. So all the domains. That being said, with any certification exam, I always recommend using multiple resources. So while I'm going to cover everything, you're going to want to study between, go deeper on the things you don't understand, utilize multiple resources. We have the Discord channels that there's questions, you can hop in there. I'm watching those constantly. So if anybody has anything in there, I'll be around.
Yeah, what I was going to mention is, covering 100% of the objectives, but then also additional support. So yes, it's going to cover 100% of the objectives, but there's still going to be homework. And there's also, one of the biggest things is we have an entire team of people who already have the CISSP and a lot of industry experience. So there's plenty of support available, especially for particular topics, for struggling points and things like that too.
And I can't sit there and take everything and drill it into your brain. You're going to have to take that information and put it into your brain yourself. So however you learn best, whether that's, reading books or going and doing some hands-on stuff, whatever that is.
And then 8-Bit, final remarks?
I don't have much to add. I'm just happy I came tonight. But I will. Well, I guess I could add on to what B-Dubs was saying is that and I take this with everything. Like if I ever read a book or anything, I always look for something to supplement my learning. Whether it's from TryHackMe, other YouTube channels, or looking at other books that I can compare with. Just getting other areas to supplement or to enrich your learning is always a plus. So. She said it perfectly, and I just gonna highlight on that. And then that being said, I got really nothing else to say.
Bam. JT?
No, I appreciate all the feedback. This is the first time in a long time I've done something like this, so I appreciate it. Great points. Love the critique.
Bam. Yeah, and thank you all for hopping up on the stage and so forth. We did cover a lot of different topics and discussions today. So if you guys do have any other questions or so forth, definitely drop those into Discord. That's going to be the best place to catch it. The bot did just drop the invite for that, so I won't do it again. And thanks for hopping into CyberCycle, even if you came in at the end. That's all good. And then I'm really glad, Jeffrey, as well, that you're getting value out of the streams as well. Just a couple of last things. So like that CISSP thing, there is a website for that, cissp.brittwhite.io. I did drop that in the chat a moment ago. And there's a whole side of that to our Discord as well. So that would be to get more info, is that cissp.brittwhite.io that I dropped in chat a moment ago. So we'll be back again tomorrow at 11 a.m. Central for that live AMA, but also we're streaming 5 days a week now, like I mentioned at the beginning of this video. But one of the big key highlights is our next 2 Thursday meetings. So the next one's going to be with Alonda with navigating GRC technology implementations. That's going to be like a lot of onboarding, tool usage, and vendors and that kind of stuff as well. There's going to be a lot of stuff with that. That's a really awesome talk coming up. And then after that, we'll have Chad for product security and the overlap, but then also teaming up with GRC and how that could really coincide together to make it way better. Those are the next 2 Thursday talks that I would definitely want to throw out there. Those are like, I'm really, really excited for those. But also, I want to also shout out too that if you guys would like to present, no matter where you're at in your journey, or if you have somebody that you would like to see up, you can send them our information. You could send me a message or otherwise, so we could start collaborating and seeing about who else we can get up to speak as well. Because we are looking for 2 speakers every single month for those Thursday meetings. And we can try to work out special live streams too. For those of you who have stuck out throughout this entire stream, I also wanted to drop a little bit of a knowledge bomb as well, that even the board, B-Dubs, doesn't even know about this yet. So on March 6th, let me double check.
Uh-oh.
Oh no, it's not. See, it's not even March 6th. Let me double check here. I should probably, make sure I have the correct info for you here. March 7th. So on March 7th, so not this Friday, but next Friday, we will have, during our live AMA session, we will actually have CISO Assistant back up. They are going to go through and do a complete 1-hour walkthrough on how you set up CISO Assistant in the cloud and on your local machine for Docker. They're going to do like a really concise walkthrough live next Friday on March 7th at 11 a.m. Central Time. They will be open for Q&A following the presentation, but it's going to be a really, really good walkthrough on how to set that up locally and in the cloud. They did recent updates and so forth, and that's been like a really big struggle point for a lot of people. And so that's a GRC tool that they have an open source version for. And they're actually going to showcase how you deploy that open source version on your local machine or in the cloud. That's a really awesome shout out I wanted to do. And that's on March 7th. I'm going to be getting that video updated and so forth, but yeah, definitely another thing to look forward to. But yeah, thank you all for attending. I'm going to go ahead and end it here. GRC